This is Friday the 18th, one day after the Fed's non-raising of the rates. So I wanted to go back over it today. Instead of looking at any new pairs, I wanted to go back over some of the pairs I've previously mentioned, because things have changed a little bit in the Forex heat map and the trends overall. So I want to reiterate a couple things that we've been watching. You can see, for example, in the US CAD, whereas that was more bullish, that we definitely have a more bearish trend going on across the heat map down in here. If we look at the Euro US dollar, that is definitely more bullish than it was when I did the video on that one. Aussie US dollar is a little bit still mixed, okay, but currently you can see this morning is in a strong intraday trend and pretty strong momentum push up there. So I'm going to look at a couple of those pairs with you this morning. And we're going to switch over and look at the US dollar, Canadian dollar first off. And the charts that you're looking at, of course, are the daily in the middle, the 4-hour with a double Kumo in the middle, and then the 4-hour Kopit curve on the far right. And you can see what's happened. I mentioned the churn up here in the top area. That I was looking at it long, but mentioned the churn. I did trade it long, and it just continued to churn. And now it's turned back down. And you can see where the Kopit curve on the daily and the 4-hour chart are both pointing down. Both are below the trigger line of 0, both showing bearish divergence. So this trend is definitely switched, and we can see the Chiku span, in the purple line right in here, trying to make its way through the historical price curve. We are not fully through this Kumo area of support, and I'm not saying it's going to continue to fall, but all I know is that right now that move back up has ended, and we are now currently in at least a temporary bearish pattern on the euro, on the US dollar, Canadian dollar. Mentioning the Euro US dollar, I mentioned before in that video where the pair had been unable to move above that 38% fib line. Well, that has changed now, and this green line represents the daily Heikin-Ashi fractal line, which is now currently right at the 38% fib line, as you can see on both charts. And you can see where we have a bullish 4-hour Kopit curve inside the daily Kopit curve here. You can also see where the 4-hour Kumo is staying above the 16-hour Kumo on the middle chart. So that trend has maintained its bullish status, and the pair failed to break through this thin area of the Kumo, which I mentioned was an area to be watching. Well, that's turned around, and that's moving back up above, so that pair is bullish again. British pound versus New Zealand dollar. This one worked well for me, even though it has still been churning. I made, I think, 220 or 230 pips on this one. Very big volatility, which I mentioned on this pair, I believe. But you can see now where the 4-hour Kopit curve has turned back down, and that is also showing bearish divergence within the context of a daily bearish divergence in the Kopit curve. Both lines are still above the 0 line, but for now at least that trend is moving down. Don't know if it will find support before it gets down below the Kumo or not. And then last up, I want to mention briefly the Aussie US dollar. I had drawn this fib line, I think it was in yesterday's video, where you can see where price has continued to move higher, so I'm moving that fib line back up. Mentioned on a lot of these pairs that they weren't quite qualified, that I was still watching different things, but I'm just giving you updates on several of them in this quick video this morning, since things have changed since the Fed decided not to raise rates. So here on the Aussie, you can see that we're still showing bullish divergence here on the daily Kopit curve, and the 4-hour still kind of in and out, but still basically above the 4-hour 0 line right in here. So that bullish trend continues up so far, but we do have, again, overhead resistance in the Kumo, and Chiku is still not above the historical price curve. So still looking for resistance on this one. So it'll be interesting to watch the correlation between the Aussie US dollar and the way this chart looks up in here with the Kumo, and compare that with the US dollar Canadian dollar, different pair, but a kind of a similar pattern set up regarding the Kumo, regarding Chiku, and those sorts of things. All right, Hope you had a good day of trading today, and I hope you have a great weekend coming up. See ya.